I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
And welcome to episode 96 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover Season 2, Episode 45 of City Hunter, titled 19-Year-Old Widow, Lover in the Heart of a Beautiful Sketch Artist, Part 1.
I am not certain whether or not this episode coordinates with any parts of the manga. If it does, I could probably look that up on some City Hunter wiki to see which chapter it coordinates with. I did not do that.
Well, no, if you guys remember from last week's episode, we were at a local book-off, and we happened upon a copy of City Hunter that just happened to contain the particular chapters that corresponded to the episode we were covering, and a little bit ahead. But from what we see for this week's episode, that doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, we've seen a few times that the anime decides to do things in a totally different order, sometimes from the manga.
In general, a lot of the manga story is very episodic, and it can be told out of order. It's just sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes, that does create a problem with the narrative in the anime because certain things happen before other things, and the like. So that only happens like once or twice, where they had to change the outcome of a story because they told that part of the story earlier than they did in the anime.
Well, they also don't bring back the bee lady because we're finding out how important the bee lady seemingly is.
Well, at least as important as she is to Hojo, because here in the anime, I don't miss her in the slightest.
That's what I'm telling you. Like, the anime decided she's not important, whereas Hojo's like, we gotta keep talking about those bees. To be fair, though, he was ahead of the curve. We really needed to be talking about the bees. You heard about the bees?
It's crazy, right?
It's crazy, right?
So as it stands on this week's episode, we're going back to, like we said, the good old traditional storyline that we get a lot in City Hunter of having to defend someone in the Yakuza.
The Yakuza are back! I was gonna say a Yakuza princess. This is basically a Yakuza queen.
Well, she's a Yakuza widow.
Who is the leader of a family now. She's the matriarch of this family at this point.
And it's the same thing. There's a lot of similarities here. I don't know whether or not that's just coincidence or what have you. There's a lot of things in common with the plot of Yakuza 0, the prequel game in that series. Because, again, we're having to deal with a land grab between two different competing factions.
Right.
It's in the late 80s.
Uh-huh.
And if I'm not mistaken, the guy who was the patriarch here in this episode, doesn't he bear a resemblance to the chairman that Kiryu in the Yakuza games used to serve? Just slightly?
I mean, I don't know, I guess.
I wonder sometimes, and mind you, it's complete conjecture on my part, if some of these episodes weren't just the slightest bit influential on the games, or was it just a thing of like, well, these are just ideals and concepts that permeate the culture over there in Japan?
Yeah, I wouldn't think too hard about that. Like, there's other Yakuza films and stuff in Japan. This is just what the image of the Yakuza from the 80s is. I really wouldn't put too much stock in, wow, they went to City Hunter to make Yakuza 0.
Well, the reason I say that is because up to a certain point in Japanese media culture, let's say, the Yakuza, yes, there's a hardline decision to make them look tough and, like we talked about here before we started recording, a necessary evil. And I think there is something to be said about that because of the fact that much like the games, there is this slightly comical aspect that's touched upon here that you don't see in a lot of other media when it comes to the Yakuza up before a certain year.
I don't know, I think that comes up from time to time. Like, it's just they take themselves so seriously that how can you not poke fun at them sometimes?
Well, I mean, like, as an example, today even, over on Hard Drive, the parody website, there was a whole story about Yakuza leader would really prefer to have this conversation on top of a rooftop shirtless.
But that is also extremely specific to the Ryuga Gotoku Like a Dragon Yakuza franchise, okay? Because we don't see a lot of times during City Hunter, we're not seeing Yakuza dudes just rip entire shirts and jackets and ties off and then going ape shit. We see them go ape shit.
We do.
We just don't see them do it after throwing off all of their clothes on the upper half of their body.
I mean, true as that may be, I wouldn't put it past it. And again, this episode made us say it. We haven't said it in a while, but I'm going to say it again this week. I wish that Ryuga Gotoku would talk to Hojo or whoever's involved to get another game set in the 80s, or even now, because we're updating with Angel Dust, put City Hunter in the world of Yakuza, some kind of crossover game, just one. You did it for Fist of the North Star. You could do it again here. It makes so much sense.
I don't know who has more control over the rights to that image, if that's Shueisha or Koamix, who now does the distribution, because if I'm not mistaken, it was Hojo and some other manga artists who, like, spun off and created the Koamix label, and now their work gets distributed through those platforms, through those physical publications, and digitally online. Do you go talk to Koamix about that? I actually don't know.
Do you talk to Aniplex about that?
No, because Aniplex is just this production team for a certain set of films. Because Sunrise was still the animating studio on both of these most recent films.
So Aniplex was just like distribution and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's production and then there's animation. Like a producer's not actually doing the animating. This is a really confusing set of hands that this has gone through. And actually, I'm wondering what the red tape was like to even put Ryo back into Jump Force? Jump Force? Cause I'm not sure how much even Shueisha considers City Hunter to be theirs anymore. I'm honestly not really sure.
Remember, they're coming out with another similar Jump game that's kind of like Fortnite.
Right.
And they've only got, their main flagship characters right now, the bigger characters, Luffy, Ichigo, Goku, people like that. And I can only hope that it will be like Jump Force, where down the line they will include Ryo into that lineup, because it was fun for the little while that we had support for it before they took support offline for Jump Force, where we could play as Ryo.
I mean, you can still play it single player or 2-player at home locally. Yeah. I mean, summoning an entire Mini Cooper is pretty legit.
And then getting everything to blow up.
Yeah.
It's kind of sick.
It's kind of sick. But all that having been said, I gotta admit that had really nothing to do with this episode.
Well, no, it's just...
Well, actually, all I was gonna say was that I've been saying for a long time you can take the model of Ryo out of Jump Force. This would be so easy if somebody would just do it, because they've extracted models of characters out of Jump Force already. Fans have done it. And then fans have also hacked the PC version of Yakuza 0 to put whatever the hell they want in there.
Right.
This is not my first time saying this. Why has nobody put the Jump Force Ryo model into
the PC version
of
Yakuza
0? Why has no one done this?
I don't know that people want it as badly as you and I.
Well, they're stupid.
They just don't get it like we do.
They don't understand how perfect it would be. And apparently, we're really not the only ones asking for it. The other people asking for it are French people. The French people really want this. Like, I found a French interview with members of Ryuga Gotoku Studio a long time ago who were like, hey, when are you gonna do a City Hunter game, Ryuga Gotoku? And they're like, oh yeah, not the first time we've heard that, actually. And then they just kind of left it at that. So they know that we're out there, and especially the French. The French are there for it.
So what you're saying is we need to team up with the French to get this thing moving, to get the ball rolling.
We need to team up with the French just to get the Nicky Larson live action film.
Yes.
That's what we need to team up with the French to do.
Well, because it's like, I don't even think we talked about this hardly at all, beyond a certain quick mention here. Having watched live action One Piece over on Netflix, that boosted itself up on my personal list of best anime to live action adaptations.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's not to say that it doesn't top Nicky Larson for me. It's good enough that it got me to watch anime One Piece, but Nicky Larson's still pretty damn high up on that list.
It really is. I couldn't believe all the nods to not only the original City Hunter, because yes, of course they have nods to their own French adaptation of Nicky Larson, which to a French person is like a whole bunch of deep cuts, right? But then there's deep cuts to Japanese City Hunter, there's deep cuts to the manga, so it's not just the anime, even though they're largely relying on dressing up and looking like anime City Hunter, right? Then there's deep cuts to just other anime shit.
Well,
even shit I don't know about because the French like different anime than we do.
That's what I'm saying. We realized that there were deep cuts to French anime culture. The way they intook anime at the time, their whole anime block is referenced in the movie in ways you and I as Americans could never comprehend unless we dug into this stuff.
Yeah, so you have to like go and find other blogs from other people explaining how deep this shit is. They went so hard, it's impossible for you to, like, you're gonna watch it as an American and be like, yeah, that's pretty cool, and you don't even know how true it really is. You bring in some singer and he's singing in French and you're like, oh, he's just some, like, jazz singer. No, bitch! That's the guy who sang the French City Hunter theme. Like, this is such a deep cut for these people, and you're never gonna know it.
So yeah, that's insane.
That's what we need to team up with the French for that, and to put City Hunter into a Ryuga Gotoku game.
Yes.
These are the things that we need. The French have all the power right now, if I'm to be honest with you. They really do.
Well, we gotta go get some power for ourselves.
We gotta go to France.
Well, we gotta go to Shinjuku first.
Okay, fine.
And we are doing that.
I almost forgot we were going to Shinjuku next month.
Yeah, we're going to Shinjuku.
I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought you were just talking about, let's talk about the actual show right now. Let's go to Shinjuku. No, all right, here we go.
We're going to Kabukicho and thereabouts, but no, we are literally...
We are literally going into Kabukicho, which is in Shinjuku, which is in Tokyo, which is in Japan.
Which is where the show is set.
Thank you.
Which is the overlap of both of these things, Yakuza 0 and City Hunter. They all converge.
Shinjuku, Kabukicho, Japan.
Yes. And so let's go ahead and jump right into this week's episode where we're going to have to bring the mood down. I know we're really excited right now talking about all these things we love, and we love City Hunter. You know the other thing that we do love here, the late Makimura.
This is so sad.
Well, because we've been asking, we've been kind of wondering here, well, what year is it? What time of year is it? And this episode's going to do a pretty good way of reminding us that, 2 years have passed since episode 5.
It's give or take, yeah. And even Kaori herself is like, it's been about 2 years. So we don't know, like, the exact... I mean, if we figure...
Give or take a couple weeks,
well,
couple
days. Well, if we
days.
figure realistic passage of time, much like the Yakuza franchise, where every game takes place with a realistic amount of time having passed every time they release a new game. So I don't really know the exact dates of airing between this one and episode 5.
Well, aside from exact dates of airing, what is Kaori's birthday? Because that'll tell us a lot.
Kaori Makimura. Birthday? Oh, it's March 31st, 1965 in the manga, 1967 in the anime.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, that's
so
better.
March. So if we're talking about he died, Makimura died the day of her birthday when she turned 19. That was
when she turned 20.
Or when she turned 20, you're right. So that was the end of March. So give or take right here in the anime, we're willing to bet it's either sometime in mid-March, maybe early April if they didn't go immediately.
Okay, fine. I'm looking up the air date.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying.
No, now I need to know. Oh, so she's like 22 now.
If she's not already 22, she's about to be. March 3rd. So,
okay.
All right, it's not her birthday yet.
It's almost her birthday. Okay, so this aired March 3rd, 1989. She is going to be 22 in like a couple weeks.
Okay, so that tells us everything we need to know right there. We know exactly, give or take, if we're keeping it 1-1 real world to the anime, they have visited before Makimura's death, because I was about to say, I would not put it past them that they would either go on the day of or they would go early because of how much Makimura meant to the both of them.
Oh, sure, of course.
So yes, we are at Makimura's gravestone. I think it's interesting that Makimura has a Western-style gravestone.
A lot of these headstones in this particular graveyard are kind of like that. Now, I don't necessarily believe that they're all bodies that have been buried. I still think there's a lot of cremation going on. I think this is just a stylistic choice, and I'm wondering if maybe that has to do with how much money they have. I don't really know.
Well, because we know Makimura wasn't broke.
Right. I don't know how much it costs in Japan to get specialized headstones. I feel like that, like, if you're trying to do something unique, that would be more costly. That just seems reasonable to me, but I must admit, not having experienced the death of a loved one in Japan, I don't actually know.
And God willing, you never will.
That's kind of sad in a different way.
Well, the beginning of this episode is pretty sad.
This is sad.
So you're in the right mood.
Yeah, we're in a sad mood.
So Kaori is there kneeling over Makimura's grave while Ryo is watching over her. He's got his own inner monologue. She's speaking aloud to Makimura.
Like, yeah, it's been about 2 years. Yeah. how you been? Guess you're not here, so not so great.
Jeez. And she goes on to say, I've been pretty busy, I haven't even had time to, get a boyfriend, and I wish someone would take responsibility for that.
Maybe the person preventing me from getting a boyfriend, where did he go?
She's talking about Rio.
Where's Rio? Where did he go? He's not there anymore. He was there with her. He was standing there.
And then
he's gone. He's gone. And Kaori suspects, as we all do as the audience. Oh no. Is it a woman? It's always a woman. Is it a woman? It's a woman.
It's a woman. And so Rio, having the eagle-eyed eyes of an eagle, he has found...
I really thought you were going to go back and say, no. I'm not going to do this one. I need to start this one over. No,
I committed.
The eagle-eyed eyes of an eagle.
Yes.
Thank you.
He has spotted this woman over at another gravestone, looking very sad and somber there, but Rio can't think about the fact that she's grieving, obviously. He can only be enamored by her beauty.
But she's also in all black because these are her mourning clothes. What the fuck, Rio? Just calm down.
And so he's about to go over and start spitting game at this woman when two dudes come out from behind the tree and start accosting her like, hey, our boss said you need to come with us.
And she's like, no, and they're like, too bad, we got a car waiting for you. And that's when Rio is like, well, I'm just gonna pretend I was not also stalking her and jump out and save her.
But in order to do that, he has to look like a Chinese ghost.
Yeah, so he's got the strip of paper,
the talisman
stuck to his forehead, and I wish I was better at reading than I am, because the kanji is very intricate, and it's just this handwritten. I'm never gonna be able to read this. I've studied so long, and I've just, you know what? I give up. I think at this point I give up.
The point is he's trying to scare these two guys away. And Rio grabs the guy who's trying to grab this woman, kind of like hyperextends his wrist back.
Yeah, I've felt that before. That doesn't feel good.
No, I've done that by accident, falling off a bike. That shit hurts.
Yeah.
And so he hyperextends this one guy's wrist, and then the most disrespectful thing you could think of, on top of trying to hit on a woman who's grieving, he grabs a bunch of the gravestones and crosses and starts chucking them at these two guys.
I wanted to stop and look at some of these headstones because there's writing on them, but as we paused it, like, it's just kind of a bunch of scribble.
It's just chicken scratch.
It really is just chicken scratch. It's not any particular language on this planet, so they just made a bunch of stuff up. Yeah, super disrespectful, though, because, like, those belong to some dead people, man.
Those belong to families, yo. But, I mean, it worked. The guys ran off, and so he's like, ma'am, are you okay? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Here, who are you grieving? And he looks at the headstone that she was looking over and reads off the name Daisuke Serizawa. And according to his tombstone, he died at 59 years old. And so seemingly you would figure this is an older gentleman, so Rio questions this woman, oh, so this guy died at 59. Was he perhaps your father?
Oh no, he was my husband. Oh. Okay, well, I mean, you don't look very old, but you could just be a really banging looking 50-year-old lady.
Which is a thing, 50-year-olds can look really, nice and pretty and whatnot. But she clarifies.
Oh no, I'm 19. Oh. If he died a year ago, then you were 18 when he died.
Oh yeah, we met when I was in high school.
And then we dated for like 6 months and then got married. And then he immediately died right after he had a heart attack.
Like, apparently, dude had a heart attack immediately after the ceremony.
On the same day. But I just want to kind of go back to this age thing, because you know it's bad when even Rio is having like this really extended reaction of, oh, that 40-year age gap is kind of a problem. I have considered grooming children, and even I think that's terrible. Like, like this is bad if Rio is looking at you like, that's problematic.
Well, because she's over here saying, yeah, we met when I was in high school, and immediately we fell in love.
Oh, I bet you he did.
Oh,
I'm sure
God.
He fell in love with you.
Like, this is some gross-ass Dane Cook shit. That's what that is.
Dane Cook is certainly one person I can think of.
I'm sure, unfortunately, a lot of us can think of many people who do this egregious shit.
So it's bad. It's pretty bad. But Rio is just like, okay, fine. Well, he's dead now, and I'm here.
Wait a minute. He died the day you got married, so you guys didn't have a honeymoon. You could still be a virgin. Jackpot!
This just went in such a weird, like, First he was thinking actually pretty logically, and then he just...
Like we were all on the same page.
The meter went all the way to the other end of the spectrum, and he just went all the way back to weird again. Just
he went back to horny.
He went all the way to the opposite.
0 to horny in 60 seconds. That's the Ryo Saiba out this fall. And so he properly introduces himself now. I'm Ryo Saiba. I'm here to help. I can help with dudes like that. If anybody's after you, just call on me. I'm right here.
Too bad somebody is after Ryo.
What? Who?
Well, there's a hammer. There's a hammer involved here. It's Kaori, and ironically, this hammer actually has no writing on it this time. I know they love their gags with some kind of jokey writing on the side of the hammer. Nope, this is just a really big wooden hammer. And he's hit with it. And actually, what is her name again?
Well, she's just now introduced herself. Her name's Ayako.
So Ayako is like, oh no, look out behind you, but she's just way too late. She tried to warn him.
Well, I just like that she played it like it was a horror movie, like, oh my god, look behind you, there's someone there, no!
Ryo very much could have avoided it if he felt like it. It's just another situation where I really think he just let Kaori hit him with a hammer.
Well, because also, like I've pointed out before, this is very much a plot device for the audience. I think the audience feels better knowing that he's being punished for being a horn dog.
Oh, on top of that, yes. But I cannot stress this enough. There is a point that comes up, I think pretty soon even.
Is it this season or next season?
I think it's this season, where somebody directly addresses Ryo and says, hey, you're better than this. I know you can dodge her hammers. Why don't you dodge her hammers? And like, we have to have this discussion. There's a whole conversation about this.
And the thing about this show in general, when we cover it, is it goes back and forth, kind of like you said with the other meter, between very serious and very comedic. And so we've gone from very serious, oh, I'm mourning my late husband, to very Scooby-Doo levels of comedy.
Kaori just chasing this man around a graveyard with a giant wooden hammer.
But they do the Scooby-Doo thing of they run off screen in one direction and then they come back from the other direction and do it again on a loop.
But logically speaking, if they were really there physically in person, all that means is they ran around the cameraman and came back on the other side. It's not like they're going through a house that dead ends on the left and they have to go back to the right and there's no way to get there.
Realistically they are just going in a circle, but the way it looks on screen is very Scooby-Doo.
You are correct, you're right. But now, here's two more dudes. Two more dudes show up.
And apparently these are good dudes. Their names are Saburo and his boss Masaichi, and they are both there as...
Is one another's boss? I just thought they were on the same level as each other working together.
The way it comes across throughout this episode is that Masaichi has more seniority than everybody else.
Well, that could be. That's fair. That having been said, these guys think that Ryo is attacking Ayako. Ryo and Kaori, just because they're both there.
And also one of them clearly has a weapon in their hand.
Is it a knife? He's got a knife?
No, Kaori has a hammer.
Oh, we're talking about Kaori. I thought you were talking about
No, those two guys already ran off. We're talking about Ryo
being... The new guys! The new Yakuza who...
No, they don't have any weapons. They're just running up like, oh my god, miss, madam. Like, they're treating her with reverence in the way they speak to her.
Yeah, of course, but they still want to kick the shit out of Ryo and Kaori.
Because they're assuming this is an attack.
But it's not an attack. But Ayako's really desperately trying to be like, no, these people saved me from the people that you think that these people are. And she almost can't even stop him from attacking them to try to defend her.
And she's got to ask the subordinate there, Saburo, please hold Masaichi back. He's going off the deep end. And, they're able to pull him back and they have to explain real quick, no, actually, it's the truth. We helped her. We're fine. You don't have to attack us, please.
Actually, Kaori wasn't there. Kaori didn't help. She was no help. But fine, she's here now.
But at the least, this guy Masaichi realizes very quickly the error of his ways and very quickly wants to make up for it. But the thing about it is there's a very distinct way he wants to make up for it.
By pulling out the knife that you said he didn't have?
Well, yeah, he hadn't pulled it yet. It was in his coat or his...
Yeah, I know. He wants to cut off his own finger because he feels like he just did a really shameful thing by attacking the very people who saved this lady. And now we have to stop him from cutting off his own finger because, that's too much, guy. You don't need to do that.
And dude's yelling stuff about, no, as a man and to defend my honor, I have to cut off my finger to make up for what I did to you.
Don't stop me!
And so they have to hold him back from doing that. And then they're like, okay, well, everybody get in the car. We got stuff to discuss. And so they pile into this Mercedes-Benz.
So we're just going to leave Ryo and Kaori's car there. Is somebody gonna take them back? Are they gonna take them back to the cemetery later?
I would assume. We don't even know whose car they took at the moment. It could have been the Panda, it could have been the Mini.
But they sure do like Mercedes-Benzes around these parts.
And so as they're driving off in this car, Cowdy and Ryo are there in the back seat, and they're talking to each other, and Cowdy's like,
you know, it's really weird how that guy wanted to cut off his pinky. They keep calling this lady, like, Madam, and they're driving around in this foreign car. Like, we know it at this point. Every time we see a Mercedes-Benz, it's like, the Yakuza are here.
and Ryo's like, yeah, that's probably what it is, and we're probably gonna pull up to, there it is, we're here, let's read the sign. And so they pull up to the compound for the Kanto Kichijo-gumi.
So Kanto would be the Kanto region, I am assuming.
They're around Tokyo.
Kichijo-gumi, that's the Kichijo family? What kind of family has a sign like that? Is that a Yakuza family?
It's a Yakuza family. And so the doors to this very large compound open wide, and all of these Yakuza guys come and form two lines welcoming back the madam to the house.
And we're looking also at a picture of the guy who just died. We see his name.
The late Daisuke Serizawa.
And you can see it, I felt very proud of myself. I could read some of that kanji. That was the Yondaime.
He's the fourth chairman.
The fourth chairman. I'm like, oh, I know what that means. Because Kiryu in Yakuza is the Yondaime, the former Yondaime. He's the former fourth chairman of his Yakuza family.
But yeah, we're able to recognize, oh yeah, this is the stuff. So you could almost hear the doo-doom on the screen introing this dead guy who was the head of this Yakuza family. And Ryo doesn't care so much about, oh, we are back in a Yakuza compound again for the upteenth time in as many weeks. He's just mad that, oh man, this guy was like almost 60 and he had a wife that was 40 years younger than him and hot. Damn, I'm jealous.
He's jealous, but he also thinks it's really weird. And to be fair, it would be a whole lot less weird for somebody closer to Ryo's age to pick somebody up of her age, which would still be a little weird.
No, it'd still be weird.
But not nearly as weird as a 40-year age gap.
Yeah, I think I would almost say, we've had these conversations, 3 is creepy. 3 years even, from like 18 years old is creepy.
Okay, this is gonna differ from person to person, of course, but once you get into your 20s, certain amounts of age gap don't matter nearly as much, right?
It's
but
just definitely if one is still in their teens.
Yeah, and when she's specifying, I was still in high school, like, you could be 18 at that time. You could also have been 17 when the 68-year-old man met you.
Or 58.
Or 58, excuse me, yeah.
And so Ryo and Cowdy are brought in, and this big burly guy, who I imagine, if I'm looking at it right, is bigger than Umibozu, just has no facial hair, but he's also wearing sunglasses, like, here, have some tea.
He seems relatively polite, actually.
Like, this is a dude who just follows orders, but he's clearly the muscle.
So now we have to sit down and have a conversation because apparently these guys are at least semi-aware of who Ryo Saiba is.
So it's Cowdy, Ryo, Ayako, and this guy Masaichi sitting at a table or a kotatsu drinking tea, and Masaichi questions Ryo, so you said your full name was Ryo Saiba, right? Does that mean you're the city hunter?
Ryo's like, I'm that guy. Okay, great, because we're in a situation where we could really use City Hunter right now. Now, mind you, there is a history here that Ryo does not like to take jobs from the Yakuza. He really does not like working with the Yakuza.
Despite all the times that he's been involved with Yakuza cases, he would prefer not to ever work with them.
He also prefers not to work with children, but you know, sometimes shit happens and we break these rules.
And you gotta walk that back. And so Masaichi explains to Ryo, well, look, here's what's going on. And Ryo's like, no, you don't have to explain it to me. When I found out what the guy's name was, all this stuff came back to me because I was kind of already semi-aware of it.
Because, I mean, of course he would be aware of it because he's technically Underworld himself.
Yeah, this is all Underworld.
He's just gonna hear this shit, even if he doesn't want to be involved with it.
So first off, I know your late husband. I heard of him. Everybody heard of him. He was considered the last of the traditional Yakuza.
You know, the kind that are supposed to be the good ones.
The honorable ones.
Which, I mean, let's be real, that whole idea is kind of a fallacy.
It is kind of a little bit of propaganda.
Yeah, the necessary evils of, oh sure, we hold up a protection racket and steal from people and beat the shit out of people and sometimes even kill people. But also we do really nice things for society, like give out Halloween candy and also keep places clean. Yeah. We do good societal things. We're great. That's what this is like. I think that propaganda is being perpetuated in what Ryo is saying here by saying, oh, he was one of the last late great ones. The kind of Yakuza that like to picture themselves as still the traditional modern day samurai.
Yeah, these kind of honor code chivalrous guys, icons of a bygone era, that sort of thing. And Ryo is explaining, okay, so he died, and then you guys had an underboss named Otone, and he split off and made his own group called the Itsukaichi Kai, and that family is fighting with you guys right now over some piece of land, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So if that's the case, you're already aware of all this, can you help us? Please, we could really use it. And at this point, Ayako, who up to this point has been very welcoming of Ryo, is now pushing back against this.
Well, she just thinks that this is kind of a rude thing to put him in the position of, because she's less familiar with Ryo and his reputation as city hunter, and just doesn't want to be a burden to somebody else. And even Kaori's like whispering in Ryo's ear, like, you can't be taking this Yakuza case. You know how it is working with the Yakuza. And the guy just overhears her whispering, like, hey, we're not like those other fucking aggressive and violent Yakuza. Yeah. And he just beats his hand on the table. But they've been drinking hot tea, and this hot tea falls over into Ryo's lap, and he kicks up the table. And it's like, this guy is not doing a very good job of proving that the Yakuza are not loud and abrasive and semi-violent. Like, he's just not doing a good job of that. But it has done a good enough job of saying, might not be able to say no to these guys if they're gonna be like this.
And so on top of having just burned Ryo's leg and pants, because, you know, pants can feel pain, this guy's like, oh no, I'm trying to say we're not violent and I accidentally did something violent. The only way to solve that is more violence. I'm gonna cut my pinky off right now.
Everybody come into the room, we gotta stop him. No, like, why does he want to do this so badly?
Like this guy right here, Masaichi, he's seen too many Yakuza movies. Like, he just wants to cut to that part, literally, where he proves his manliness.
Maybe he just wants to do it just so that he can walk around with a finger missing for the visual proof that he's such a hardcore badass. Like, he wants to get to that point so bad, the way that some people want scars to look like they're fucking hard.
Like young Luffy.
Stabbing themselves right in the face just to look like they could stab themselves in the face. Yeah.
So now the scene jumps to night at the compound, and we assume that Ryo and Kaori, under duress, have taken the job because they're sticking around.
Well, Ryo's not exactly where he's supposed to be right now.
Not yet. What we're seeing right now is that Kaori's trying to have a conversation with Ryo. That's all we know right here at the jump.
Right.
And so Kaori's here not really looking him in the face. She's kind of talking out, but assuming he's listening.
Well, unfortunately, she already made this mistake once this same episode.
The same day.
Trying to talk and make sure that Ryo can hear her speaking, but he's not even there.
Because she's there trying to tell him, hey, we shouldn't take this job, Ryo. You shouldn't do that. You're smarter than that. Are you even listening? She turns around, and it's that bald dude from earlier.
The guy who's scary looking, but he might actually be kind of gentle and kind of courteous. He might be a courteous dude.
Because he's just there like, hey. And she's like, whoa, what the hell are you doing here?
Ryo asked me to sit here and just say nothing, so that's what I'm doing.
Well, where the hell is he?
I don't know. He just took off.
Wait a minute. Where is Ayako right now?
Right about now, she's probably taking a bath.
Oh, shit!
Oh, no! We all know where he's going.
We know exactly where he's going.
And so Kaori's like, get everybody out here now! Right now! Let's go! Go! Come on!
Yeah! Go! And Masaichi's like, what? What's happening? And it's like, Ryo, we need to find him right now. He is going to assault your boss.
Oh no, we got that covered. Here's Ryo caught in a net in a tree.
Like they were ready for this, which is great, you know, because normally this is Kaori or Umibozu or Sayako that has to do this. No, these Yakuza were ready.
He didn't even get close, although Ryo says, I was so close. No, you weren't.
No, you weren't
They
anywhere
were
near.
prepared for this.
And Masaichi's over here, like, berating him verbally, like, you lecherous fool. We put this up a year ago to make sure nobody would try to do this. You were the first dumbass to try.
I really thought I had something here. I really thought.
And so we figure that's as much as it is for the night. We go to the next day, and Ryo, Kaori, and Ayako are walking through a very large, very wooded park. And so I'm imagining, because of the geography and everything about City Hunter and where it takes place, I'm imagining this is either supposed to be or a parallel to Yoyogi Park.
It could be, just from how large they're saying this park is. Mind you, we're aware that they like to hang out around Shinjuku Koen, Shinjuku Park, but I get the feeling that when they say, oh, I can't believe that a park that is this big with this many trees still in it still exists in this city, at this point I'm thinking he just means the Tokyo metropolitan area in general. And Yoyogi Park, you know, Ueno might have a park about that big as well.
Did we go to Ueno?
You and I together have not been to Ueno. I don't think you have been to Ueno. I have been to Ueno. I went to the Ueno Zoo a long time ago. It is very pretty out there. Ueno's great. I like Ueno.
So you think it could be based on Ueno, potentially?
That could be another option. They do not say for sure what part of town this is.
No, they don't. But the important thing to point out here is that to Ayako, and more importantly to both her and the late husband, this is an important park, because apparently there's a bench that she sits on and she's like, this is where we first met, this is where we fell in love, here in this park, and this is what all this fight is over. All this fuss is being made by the Itsukaichi Kai because they want this park and they want to tear it down and take away all these memories, and I don't want that to happen.
Which, I mean, that's fair. I think your relationship with this old man was really fucking creepy, but, like, you really believed in it. Like, your emotions and your feelings are real and valid, and you really are sad and mourning and wish this guy was still here, like
Ryo's asking her, so was this part of your husband's will? Was this his desire? And she clarifies, well, no, not really. Really, all it is that, you know, after he passed away, it was just so sudden, and this was something to do and something to wrap myself up in, and I decided to devote myself to this because it reminds me of him, and all the guys there at our group, our Yakuza group, remind me of him, and if I didn't have all that stuff surrounding me, I think I would just lose it.
Which, I feel like that's a bit much, but at the same time, again, it's not like her emotions aren't real. And especially, it's just that when you're that young, it's also way more powerful. Like, you're just so wrapped up in a person at about that age.
Well, just in general, the grief, too.
Yeah.
Because they have Kaori there say, oh, she's just like me 2 years ago. That's a lot of the reason why I joined up with Ryo right after my brother died.
Yeah, you have to just throw yourself into something sometimes. Some people, that's how they handle grief. Some people can't do anything for a while, and other people, I think it was Patton Oswalt, who might have said after he lost his first wife, that all he knew how to do was go back into being on the road and doing work and stuff in order to not feel grief all the time.
Yeah. So there's some truth to that it makes sense that she would make that decision, because if you don't have either the support group or that activity or just that something in your life to wrap yourself around, yeah, it could be really easy to lose grip and spiral. Mm-hmm. So again, we figure they've spent all day out here at the park, and now it's night again. We're back at the compound. Ryo's sneaking down the hallway towards Ayako's room, and she's got a sign like "Do Not Disturb" or else by penalty of death on the door.
And I don't even think that that's her who put the sign there.
No, clearly it was like Masaichi or one of the other Yakuza guys.
Right, of course. Ryo ignores this sign, obviously. Of course he does. This is like that screenshot from Arthur, where Arthur's little sister is like, that sign can't stop me because I can't read.
Yeah, that with DW, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the Garfield sign like, I wonder who that's
for.
So Ryo goes into the room, and he's immediately met with the face of the late Daisuke.
Which, thankfully, it's not even real. In fact, it's a painting. It's an extremely well-painted, very detailed painting.
A portrait of him. Mm-hmm. And we see that inside, Ayako is there practicing her art, and apparently she's actually pretty good at landscapes.
She's just got a bunch of them hanging on the walls that she herself has painted of all kinds of just beautiful landscapes of different sceneries, mountains, oceans, lakes, rivers, valleys, just incredible artwork. And then Ryo notices, like, in various positions in each of these portraits, there's a tiny little man standing somewhere looking at this scenery, and he's like, I get it. You're painting your husband in all of these pictures, right? That's him, right? You've put him in all these portraits.
And she confirms, well, yeah, because he died when he did, and we always said, you know, we wanted to go travel together. Every time I personally see a location that I believe he would have loved, the only way I feel like I could get him there is to put him in the painting. So that's why I make all of these. And I want to say, I don't know where I heard it before, but I believe that that is actually based off another artist who has done that in real life.
Oh, really?
If I'm not mistaken, I've heard of that happening before, where an artist did that for that exact reason.
Oh, that's very, very interesting. I would have to look that up some more.
But I can understand how that would be incredibly therapeutic for a person.
So apparently she was working on another one, and it's almost done. And this is the one that she's working on right now. She's looking at it right now.
And it looks like this beautiful, like, Bob Ross lakeside. You know, there's a mountain off in the distance.
And her intention was for it to be ready on the first wedding anniversary of theirs, which was also, coincidentally, a year ago. It was the day that he died. And that first wedding anniversary was the day that she was there in that gravesite. Like, just, it's where she met Ryo that day. Right. She just wasn't done with it yet. It just wasn't ready. And that's largely due to the fact that this other family, the Itsukaichi, have just been dicking around with her so much. She has not had the time to complete this painting and put her former late husband into this painting. And Ryo's like, well, why don't we get out of here and go to this place where you're trying to paint so that you can finish and put him in there.
And she's just like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So they just jet. They just go the next day.
Never mind the fact that this Yakuza family is extremely protective of her. And they don't want her going anywhere, especially not without them.
And especially not with Ryo.
I mean, they are not yet totally concerned about Ryo being there with her, but Kaori is. Kaori's worried about it a lot.
So when the news gets out that he's taken off with Ayako in tow, Kaori just takes charge of these guys. And she's like, hey, Ryo took off? Don't worry, I got this on lock. It turns out he did this to me a while back. Well, I did it back to him. I put a tracer in his jacket.
Oh, wow. And I'm sitting here going, wow, because she doesn't say this is because Ryo has done this to me before.
Yeah, that's me saying
We
that.
have to come to that conclusion because, yeah, she had to have figured it out that she's been tracked a couple of times in this exact same way. So she's saying, I've put a tracker on him and I've got the GPS location device in my car. So she's figured out, because before we were like, does she know she has literally an entire GPS system in the glove box of her car?
In the Fiat.
In the Fiat. We weren't really sure, but apparently she knows now. She's like, I've got the GPS system in there. We're gonna have this man tracked down so fast. And they're like, well, I'm not so sure about that because I'm pretty sure Ryo took that Fiat because it's gone. Oh.
Well, damn. And so that clears up for us, that's the car they took. They took the Fiat over to Makimura's grave, right?
But when did they get the Fiat back? Because they got driven to the Yakuza family house in the Mercedes.
But remember, right here, Kaori tells one of the guys, hey, go pull the car around.
Yeah,
which
pull
tells
the
me,
car around.
Yeah, but how can they do that without them having the keys? So that leads me to believe that at some point, Masaichi or Ayako or somebody had them give over the keys to the Fiat, and they brought the car over to the Yakuza compound.
But see, this is what I'm telling you, is that we are having to make this assumption that that is what happened, or that they drove somebody back at some point just to go pick up the car and drive it back. Like, sure, that probably is what happened, but we didn't see any
The other
of that
option
happen.
would be that day, earlier in the day when they went to the park, it's possible that they dropped him back off at the graveyard so they could go get
That's
the
what
Fiat.
I just said. Yeah, basically, in
It
different
could
words.
be either one of those two things.
Right. It doesn't matter because now the Fiat's not even there. We don't ever see the Fiat, in fact.
Actually, no, we don't. You're right.
We just are already automatically in the mountains by this lake.
Yeah.
And where's the car? Oh, it's back there somewhere.
But yeah, anyway, we're up at the lake, and it's this beautiful mountain view, exactly the way she's painted it. It's a perfect day out, and she's like, all right, I'm gonna get started painting. Here I go. And she immediately, like, goes into flow state. You know, she is just in the zone. It's just her and the painting. And Ryo is thinking about hitting on her, but the second he sees she's, like, there in flow, he's like, I can't interrupt that. I can't do that right now.
No, she's, like, in love with what she is doing right now and is putting all of her heart into it. And he's actually like, you know what? I will stop having no thoughts in my head other than raging sex fiend thoughts, and I'll just go calm down and lie down on the grass over here. Wait a second.
And his super hearing kicks in, and he immediately senses, wait, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys. There's 11 guys in those woods just off to the side here. All right, time to go take them out. Wait. I gotta do this all sneaky-like because I don't want to interrupt her flow state right now.
Also, you have to be sneaky so that they don't know that he's coming.
And so I don't know how they didn't see him go into the woods.
He would have to go so wide.
That's what I'm saying, like... Because there's this big old clearing between the lakeside, they're immediately next to the lakeside, there's this big old, like, hill or field.
Yeah, it's a grassy hill, quite a lot of space on this grassy hill before you hit the wood line.
Yeah, like, not quite Sound of Music, but pretty big for a hillside.
Yeah, it's looking very Swiss Alps for being Japan.
But somehow Ryo was able to make it into the tree line, and we know he's really being quiet because not even Footsteps is playing.
But he does kind of fuck up for like a split second, even though it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. He does step on a tree branch, and one guy kind of turns around like, what the fuck? But it's too late. It's too late. He's already punched in the face.
And he kicks 9, 10, 11 guys to sleep.
And part of me is like, I think they have reused some of this animation from some previous fight with some other guys in business suits, but it's not like a super big deal because this was a really long time ago. I just felt like I really recognized especially one particular dude with his jaw drawn a certain way.
Well,
big,
for you,
like,
it was that. For me, it was specifically he palm strikes.
That's the guy, too, that I'm thinking of. It's like the guy who gets palm struck, and then his jaw is all weird and goofy after that.
Yeah, we would have to double check. There's a possibility that is reused footage.
That having been said, it was so long ago, I kind of don't even care. I'm just mentioning it because I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Right, exactly. And so she's able to finish up her painting. Ayako has shown Ryo, hey, I'm done. Thank you for not disturbing me. What the hell?
God, there's just this pile of bodies that he dragged all 11 men out of the woods.
And made his own little katamari out of all of these 11 dudes, and he had rope?
Yeah, maybe it's in the Fiat that we can't see. He went all the way back to the Fiat, got the rope, drugged them out of the forest? I don't know. I do not know.
Like, it really doesn't matter order of operations wise what order he did this in.
Did he drag them to the car to get the rope and then drug them from the car?
Or did he go to the car to get the rope first? Like, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
We didn't see where the rope came from, and we don't ever see the car, so it really doesn't matter.
And so later that evening, they return to the compound. They return to the compound, and everybody's so relieved that she's fine, but they are amazed that she hasn't been touched or assaulted.
But they're also very upset at Ryo for taking her out at all. Like, we're in a dangerous situation here, and I understand you're the bodyguard, but like, she wouldn't have even been in this dangerous situation had you not taken her out in the first place. And we caught you trying to get a peek on her before, so like, what the fuck, man? Like, we're starting to not feel super great about you.
But he retorts back saying, hey, look, there's a good reason why you guys wanted to hire me to begin with. I mean, look at this. I captured 11 dudes that were gonna kidnap her. You're welcome. What's your problem with that? And then that guy Masaichi goes on this huge rant about the way in which they care for Ayako. And it's in this, like, really old school chivalrous way of like, look, we admit we all have some sort of feelings about about her, but we respect her too much, and we would never think of her in a carnal way.
Except for these photos that we have to distribute right now!
Oh my god, photos! And then Ryo remarks, wait a minute, are you guys, like, really, like, chivalrous men, or are you just idol otaku? Because what has happened here is big dude with the glasses from earlier in the episode apparently took some, like, Polaroids.
And Ryo thinks, oh, they're like bathhouse Polaroids, but they're not. It's just her in a candid moment doing laundry on the laundry line outside. And they just think that that's just so charming. And this is a thing that especially Japanese idol otaku are like really into, is just like, oh, what are they just doing in their day-to-day moments?
Oh, are they eating a sandwich? Oh my god.
And especially like in the 80s up to the early 90s.
They're like this now.
No. What I'm saying is this craze of distributing physical print photos. Because yes, you can have a digital distribution system now that gets a far bigger reach, right? But this kind of ravenous real-world fury of I need one of these physical photos, right? And I guess you could probably do this at real-life idol events these days too. Like you're never gonna be able to get one of these physical print photos unless you come down to this specific handshake event and you spent this much money buying this many CDs and like insanity.
That's how they get you.
And this is the way these guys are behaving right now.
Right, exactly.
They're just in a fury. They're like crazed zombies for copies of these Polaroids of this woman.
You know, as far as I'm aware, a group of Yakuza is called a heat action. But no, so these guys are over here reveling in, oh my god, we got these candid photos. Meanwhile, across town, at the offices of the Ichikaichikai, their dudes are reporting back to their boss, Otone, like, hey, I don't know if we can do any of this right now, boss. City Hunter's involved.
Oh yeah, well that would be really stupid to try and go face-to-face directly with City Hunter, so we're not going to do that. Instead, we're just gonna make it so that the land that she's trying to protect isn't even worth protecting at all in the first place. It ends on such a strange shot. Like,
well, yeah, because it's this tableau of everybody on the right-hand side of the screen, all are good guys, and Ryo's kind of, like, really big in terms of proportion.
His torso is enormous. His very large-looking torso. And Otone is up in the top left-hand corner, all enormous, looking like, I'm just so evil.
He looks like either Magneto or Red Skull from those old beat-em-up arcade games.
Yeah.
Like, he's got that same look on his face, like you're gonna hear him go, ha ha ha.
It's kind of an awkward end to this episode, but you know what? I don't know where else you would have put it, because this is just kind of a funny, you could take it or leave it, two-parter. You know, like, I don't think that this has a whole lot of relevance to character development in this show. It's just like, if you need to introduce people to what City Hunter is like, this is one of those you could use, I guess.
I mean, beyond that, the most we get out of it character-wise is just that little bit of flavor at the beginning of the episode where Cowdy is kind of trying to hint, hey, I wish somebody would make sure I have a boyfriend. Ryo, hello? Bro, if you can hear me from beyond the grave, help us out here.
You know, in the stage play, he sort of does that.
Does he now?
Well, you remember I've shown you the City Hunter Takarazuka play.
Right.
And Makimura, as a ghost, is like a character.
He's kind of like the narrator, right?
He's the narrator, and he's a ghost, and he's like actually there, even though he's dead. And sometimes Ryo and or Kaori can kind of feel that he's there. Like, he's assisting in making some things happen. He helps Kaori get a certain shot off that is very important to the narrative.
So he's like Patrick Swayze ghost.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I think I must have missed that part.
No, you did not miss that part, and you were like, oh my god.
Then I think I just need to rewatch it.
We do need to rewatch it. Also, really needs some subtitles.
That's probably why I'm having a hard time remembering it.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody but me, and maybe you, I guess, cares about them enough.
Well, I've been saying you should reach out to some Takarazuka groupies that are out there. Maybe they could help, but...
But they are very strict about, we do not distribute. We do not do that. God bless them, because they are doing the correct thing. They are
you're
actually
right. You're
doing
right.
the correct
Okay,
thing.
so For any Takarazuka groupies who are listening, and I think they're not, we didn't say what we just said. We respect the fandom as well as you do, and yes, the women are all great.
They are. I thought that show was really good.
And many others they've done.
Yeah.
So next time on the show, we're going to cover part 2 of this. Ayako's going to cry a lot, and there's going to be some arson.
Oh man, I love me some good arson. You know, when it's good arson. This isn't good arson.
When is there ever good arson, Kaylin? Name an example of good arson. It's okay, I'll wait.
You know, if it's like the Shinra building...
Okay, one time. One good arson.
Mind you, nobody did an arson to Shinra.
Yeah,
They did a bombing.
That was a terrorism.
Well, so is arson! Depending on who you're trying to burn down, it is definitely terrorism.
I mean, yeah, technically, yeah.
Oh, no. Like, I don't even want to talk about the times that a burning has in fact been terrorism. Because it's happened. And it's been terrorism.
Fine. Let's just cut to the end.
So come back next time when we cover the 46th episode of City Hunter 2, 19-year-old widow, lover in the heart of a beautiful sketch artist, part 2.
And if you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on most social media. I'm at Josh Knight First.
And I'm at Mars Girl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 96th episode of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, I'm gonna burn Josh's house down.
Kaylin, I need you to know that's not a good arson. You live here.
Worth it.